Hey everybody, welcome back. We're here at Paddys Pub. I'm just kidding. We're here at the Amarillo Brewery. Today we're gonna be drinking a couple of Irish beers.
So we're pretty excited because St. Paddy's Day is just around the corner. We always brew a dry Irish stout. That being said, we're gonna actually brew an Irish Red Ale this year.
So we've got a few different malts. We're gonna taste a couple of commercially brewed Irish beers. There's not really a lot of variation when it comes to Irish Reds, but we wanna make it our own and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, so this may come as a surprise to some people out in the YouTube world, but Trevor and I have nightly pillow talk conversations via text, and we've actually kind of already penciled this recipe together, but we felt like it'd be a perfect time to actually dig into some real beers and see where we think ours is going to line up, and then maybe make some tweaks, which it ties directly into these malts. This is all in our recipe right now, but maybe we'll drop something, add something, play around with it a little bit.
And who doesn't want to drink work beers for a recipe development?
Right. Work beers don't count. So.
Work beers don't count, that's right. All right, Caleb, which one do we want to open up first?
So I think we should try the Smithwicks, which I'm pretty sure that's how you say it if you were in Ireland.
You said Smithwicks, but it has a W. Tell us why.
Well, just a week ago, we had one of our friends in who was telling us a story about a trip to Ireland, and his grandmother would order a Smithwicks for the wee lad. Okay. And so that's where I got my pronunciation
the W
from.
silent, apparently, from this story. All right.
Trevor, why don't you pour us a couple samples? There's a pretty mild platform here. We're going to get some toast biscuit notes, we expect. It's a relatively low ABV beer, less than 5%, almost always, at least for the traditional examples.
So this one comes in at 4.5% alcohol per volume. So it actually says it was brewed in Dublin, Ireland, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's fun.
So their description, our ruby red brew with a gentle hop bitterness, sweet malty notes, and a refreshing balanced taste. All right, let's dive in. We got aroma, sweet, fruity from the malts. It's not like crazy over the top malty like on the aroma.
No, I mean, I think if you were comparing against beers that I would categorize as being extra malty, this is nothing like a Scotch ale. That just drips like sweetness right from the, the aroma to the taste to the finish.
Right, exactly.
This, on the other hand, is, it's pleasantly dry finish in balance. I think they described it that way, and it's true.
Is perfect.
But I get almost like a stale caramel flavor in the middle.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's maybe the age of this one, or if that's just sort of like a natural.
Yeah. I'm not sure what their date code is on here. I mean, you get that bitterness in the middle.
Would you describe that as a hop bitterness?
I actually doesn't seem like a hop bitterness to me.
No, I think it's probably malt.
Yeah, malt bitterness.
When we were looking at some template recipe ideas from some examples that are out there, it seemed like a lot of these had some black malt or some roasted barley in there.
I could see that.
And I think that's what kind of gives it that dry, balanced note.
Yeah.
So they're all way under on IBU. I mean, I say way under. They're very low IBU.
Yeah.
While you're looking for that, I'm going to pour us up some of the Sullivans.
It says mild hops, sweet malt, and roasted barley. So it might be that roasted.
I bet so. So I've never had a Sullivan's beer before. This was recommended when I stopped in at the beer store. I think they described it as relatively new to the American market.
Okay.
This is Sullivan's Maltings Irish Ale.
Right, 5.0% alc per vol. So their visual description is rich ruby color with good foam. When you poured it up, it had really good foam. Aroma, tasting notes, malt and fruit taste, balance of blended malt with hop bitterness, good body with a dry finish. All right.
You need to get a whiff of this one. It's a lot different.
This one says biscuit and gentle caramel notes.
You mentioned it called out some fruit notes as well. I think it's important to mention that that's going to be derived from the yeast selection.
Right.
English or European ale strain. There are some specific Irish strains out there too. Blends of fruity note.
It's different for sure. I can smell the biscuit. I can taste the biscuit.
Does that mean that there's biscuits in this?
No.
Biscuit is just a type of malt. It's a more Belgian style malt typically. Its color is darker than a pale malt, but not quite as rich or colored as some others. It's usually in the 20 Lovabond range.
Yeah.
Definitely add a little bit of that crackery or almost like cookie texture, but with just like in limited amounts.
Right. So this one in color seems a bit darker, but not a whole lot. Clarity is very similar.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's also a little bit more complex flavor.
Yeah.
I know Smithwick is supposed to be just an iconic product, but it's also probably not considered the most unique or craft-centric product out.
Right. I think I prefer this one just from these two samples. There's not as much bitterness in this one. It's like a smooth, like it says, gentle caramel notes, and I think I prefer this one. In our recipe, do you have our notes here?
Yeah, so we were kind of penciling this in as majority pale malt, which would be totally normal for an amber or a red beer, whether it was any history, any background.
Right.
So we're about 84% is where we're at right now.
Okay.
We've got some Crystal 40,
Okay.
Crystal 80, Crystal 120, and then some roasted.
This is the 120 right here.
Yeah, that's 120. So we've got some examples here on the table. You can eat any of these malts just for taste, and we recommend you trying them.
Yeah.
You know, we got our pale malt here. If you crunch on a couple of those and then let it sit on your tongue, you got a really awesome sweetness. As you go darker in color, and we kind of work through the spectrum here a little bit, the more you chew, the more like harsh and bitter you'll notice it. But that's why we use it in such small percentages at times.
Right.
One thing I didn't say, we use Munich malt in our American amber ale. So I pulled some Munich. It's here as well. I don't know that it's needed in this beer. It wouldn't be necessarily a traditional ingredient.
I mean, if anything, it could possibly replace that biscuit. A little bit of cracker flavor that's in the middle of the Sullivan's. Definitely get the fruitiness on the Crystal 120. Get that raisin that's kind of in both of these beers. They talk about that sweet fruit, and definitely it's going to bring out that color. I don't know. This one might make it more bitter.
Absolutely. I think in both the examples we've got in front of us, there is a little bit of roasted barley, but I bet it's not very much percentage-wise. In our recipe, we've templated it out. We've only got it about 1% right now.
Yeah. I think it needs to have a little bit, but we don't want to elevate it too high. It'll bring out that bitterness, but it will definitely give us that color that we're looking for.
And as a quick side note, that roasted barley is really prevalent in dry Irish stout.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I think the only thing we need to conclude is, do we want the Munich or do we not want the Munich?
I'm gonna lean away from the Munich. I think because it's not as traditional of an ingredient. That's like a medium bready quality, which I really like. It's probably the most common base malt that we would use in, say, like an Oktoberfest recipe.
Right.
I say let's skip it.
I agree with you. I think we need something totally different than our Sunrise Amber Ale.
I don't think we have to have that medium malt note in there. On the other hand, if you like the idea of putting some biscuit, like, let's give it a shot.
You know what? I like this Sullivan, so let's put some biscuit.
Okay, so we've tasted through all these malts and talked a little bit about, some of their flavors. I think an interesting thing that we're gonna do with this today, once we finalize this recipe, let's share it with the audience. So take a look below and you'll be able to see all the recipe information in the details below.
We are actually brewing this recipe with our homebrew club here in Amarillo. We're doing a wort share, so they get to take some home.
Use their fermenters and their yeast selection. They might even dry hop it or something like that. And so I think it's gonna be really exciting to follow back up with those guys and see a little bit of a comparison between what their versions taste like and what ours taste like.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool to see. As Caleb said, check out the description below for this Irish Red recipe. Comment below on the recipe and definitely let us know if you brew with it.
But before we go, we're giving away some sticker packs. So if you'll comment your favorite Irish beer or Irish cocktail, we will send you a free set upon a set of stickers.
Sounds great. Well,
all right.
Happy St. Paddy's Day, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers.